The average American man between the ages of 50 and 54 has only about $87,000 saved for retirement. Yet many of those same men drive respectable cars, own comfortable homes, wear expensive watches, and earn six-figure incomes. The financial emergency isn't visible because appearances don't show balance sheets. They show costumes. Hey, I'm Brian, and I spend way too much time thinking about why intelligent men reach their 50s believing they're financially secure, only to discover that the numbers tell a completely different story. Today, we're going to pull apart the biggest financial traps men fall into during their 50s. Not reckless mistakes, not gambling, not bad investments. These are the respectable decisions that quietly become expensive prisons. By the end of this video, you'll see why the decade that should feel like the home stretch often becomes the most financially dangerous period of a man's life. If you're building wealth for retirement instead of just hoping it works out, subscribe, because that's exactly what we break down here. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Looking financially successful is often the very thing preventing you from becoming financially independent. Everything in this video revolves around one idea that I want you to picture every time you make a financial decision. I call it the golden anchor. Imagine an anchor made entirely of polished gold. It shines. People admire it. They assume anyone carrying it must be wealthy. But an anchor has only one job. It keeps you exactly where you are. That's what many financial commitments become by your 50s. The larger home bought after the promotion, the luxury vehicle that quietly became normal, the country club membership you barely use, the vacation property that seemed like proof you had made it, the tuition payments that stretched longer than expected. None of these decisions looked irresponsible on their own. In fact, each one probably felt deserved. The problem is that financial disasters almost never arrive because of one spectacular mistake. They arrive because dozens of reasonable decisions accumulate into something too heavy to move. Every payment adds another link to the chain. And when life finally changes, as it always does, you don't discover how valuable your assets are. You discover how heavy your anchor has become. That lens changes everything you're about to hear. Because the first trap isn't about spending. It's about the psychology that quietly convinces successful men to build cages they mistake for castles. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. The first trap is something I call the fixed obligation stack. Notice I didn't say debt. Debt can disappear. Obligations behave differently. An obligation is any payment that arrives every month whether life cooperates or not. Mortgage, vehicle lease, insurance, private school tuition, vacation property, homeowners association dues, boat storage, subscription services, club memberships. Every one of them looks manageable when viewed alone. The danger begins when your brain evaluates them individually instead of collectively. Meet Richard. He's 53 years old, regional operations director. Annual salary of $190,000. From the outside, Richard looks exactly like the kind of man younger professionals hope to become. His annual performance reviews are excellent. Neighbors assume he's wealthy. His children believe their father has everything under control. Now let's look at his monthly reality. After taxes, retirement deductions, healthcare premiums, and payroll withholdings, Richard brings home approximately $10,600 each month. His mortgage consumes $3,400. Two luxury vehicle payments total $1,400. College tuition support for his youngest daughter averages $1,700. Insurance premiums add another $800. Country club membership costs $600. Utilities, internet, phone plans, and household subscriptions absorb roughly $900. Minimum payments on accumulated credit balances take another $700. Then there are groceries, fuel, maintenance, medical expenses, gifts, and everything else life quietly invoices every month. By the time Richard finishes adding everything together, his fixed commitments total roughly $12,500 every month. Read that number again. He earns $10,600 after taxes. His obligations demand $12,500. He's underwater before the month even begins. The remarkable part? Richard never remembers making one disastrous decision. He remembers earning a promotion, buying a safer house, helping his daughter through college, replacing an aging car, supporting his family. Everything sounded responsible. Everything was individually affordable. Collectively, they became impossible. This is what makes the fixed obligation stack so dangerous. Most men don't experience financial collapse because they lack discipline. They experience it because every promotion created permission for another permanent payment. Income increased, flexibility disappeared. Eventually, every future raise had already been spent years before it arrived. The real problem isn't overspending. It's replacing financial capacity with financial commitments. Because once your obligations own your paycheck no longer belongs to you. And that creates a second danger that almost nobody models correctly. A danger that can destroy decades of investing even when the market eventually recovers. Most people think retirement investing is about one question. What average return will I earn? That isn't the question that determines whether your retirement succeeds. The real question is much more uncomfortable. When will the bad years arrive? Imagine two men. Each retires with $1 million. Each withdraws the exact same annual income. Each experiences the exact same average investment return over the next 20 years. On paper, they should finish in roughly the same position. They don't. The first man retires into several strong market years. His investments grow before withdrawals begin taking meaningful bites out of the portfolio. The second man retires just before a severe downturn. Think about the 2008 financial crisis, the dot-com crash, even the rapid market collapse during 2020. The headlines eventually faded. Markets recovered. But here's what many retirees never recovered from. Imagine your portfolio falls by 30% during your first retirement year. Your $1 million becomes approximately $700,000. Now you still need income. Your grocery bill didn't shrink by 30%. Property taxes didn't decline because markets crashed. Healthcare certainly didn't become cheaper. So you begin selling investments while they're deeply discounted. Every withdrawal permanently removes shares that will never participate in the eventual recovery. Years later, when markets finally climb back, there's less capital left to recover. Same average returns. Completely different outcome. This is called sequence of returns risk, and it quietly explains why two retirees with identical portfolios can end up living completely different retirements. The mathematics are brutal because retirement changes the direction of cash flow. During your working years, market declines become opportunities because you're buying more shares. During retirement, market declines can become forced liquidation events. You're no longer accumulating, you're consuming. That's why timing matters far more than averages. The irony is painful. Many men spend decades mastering how to build retirement accounts, but almost no time understanding how those accounts behave once withdrawals begin. The game changes. Most people never notice the rules changed with it. And unfortunately, life rarely waits politely for markets to recover. Because while your investments may be struggling through a downturn, three entirely different financial storms often arrive at exactly the same time. That's where the golden anchor becomes almost impossible to lift. Here's the mistake almost every retirement projection makes. It assumes financial problems arrive one at a time. Life doesn't work that way. Your 50s are often defined by convergence. Three separate financial pressures begin moving toward you from different directions until they collide in the same decade. The first is aging parents. Depending on the level of care required, assisted living or long-term care can easily cost between $5,000 and $7,000 every month, with many regions seeing even higher costs. Families often discover that insurance coverage is limited, and government programs don't begin where they assumed they would. The second force is adult children. Many parents imagine the largest expenses end after high school graduation. Instead, college tuition, graduate school, helping with housing, weddings, or supporting children through an uncertain job market extend financial dependence far longer than previous generations experienced. Annual college costs at many private institutions now exceed $62,000 before considering travel and other living expenses. The third force is gray divorce. Divorce after the age of 50 has become dramatically more common over the past several decades. Beyond the emotional cost comes a financial reality that few men fully appreciate. Assets split, legal fees accumulate, housing expenses double, retirement accounts shrink. Research consistently shows the long-term financial impact can permanently reduce household wealth, and many men experience devastating declines in net worth after later life divorce. Now put those three pressures onto someone already carrying a golden anchor. Martin is 54. He believed retirement planning meant consistently contributing to his retirement accounts. Then his mother required assisted living. His youngest son transferred to a university with higher tuition. Months later, his marriage ended. Within 2 years, the retirement account that once held approximately $600,000 fell to about $290,000 after asset division and associated costs. His monthly obligations didn't disappear, many actually increased. The arithmetic became impossible, not because Martin failed, because normal life delivered 3 invoices at exactly the same time. This is the structural failure almost nobody talks about. Most financial advice treats these problems as separate categories: retirement planning, estate planning, college planning, insurance planning, divorce planning, but your checking account doesn't separate them. Every bill arrives at the same mailbox. Every withdrawal comes from the same pool of money. Financial advisors are often optimized to solve individual pieces of the puzzle. Life presents the entire puzzle at once. And when those 3 forces strike a man whose golden anchor is already buried deep beneath the water, the question is no longer whether his portfolio can survive. The question becomes whether his identity can survive cutting loose the very things he once believed proved he had succeeded. That question brings us to the final trap. Not inflation, not taxes, not market volatility. The most expensive cost many men pay in their 50s never appears on a statement. I call it the approval tax. The approval tax is the money you spend protecting an identity you've already earned. It begins innocently. You become the executive who should drive a certain vehicle, the professional who belongs at a certain golf club, the father whose children should never hear the word no, the neighbor whose house must continue reflecting 20 years of career success. Eventually, maintaining the image quietly becomes part of your job description. The strange part is that nobody formally assigned you that role. You volunteered for it. Consider 2 men. Paul and Marcus are both 52 years old. Both earn $220,000 annually. Both have worked consistently for nearly 3 decades. Both received similar bonuses, similar raises, and similar investment opportunities. From the outside, their lives appear almost identical. Look beneath the surface, and they might as well live in different financial universes. Paul owns a large home with substantial maintenance costs. He leases luxury vehicles every few years because, in his words, clients expect success to look successful. He belongs to 2 private clubs. His vacations are financed as much by expectation as enjoyment. His investment accounts carry actively managed funds with layered advisory costs because they sounded sophisticated enough to justify the fees. At 52, Paul's total net worth is approximately $1,400,000. That sounds impressive, until you separate what he owns from what he can actually use. After accounting for home equity, retirement restrictions, vehicle depreciation, and outstanding liabilities, Paul's liquid net worth is only about $115,000. His balance sheet is large. His freedom is small. Now look at Marcus. Same salary, same profession, different priorities. He stayed in the same home after his children moved out instead of upgrading. He drove vehicles until they became mechanically expensive rather than socially outdated. He invested consistently into broadly diversified, low-cost index funds instead of chasing complexity. When his income increased, he expanded investments before expanding lifestyle. By 52, Marcus has accumulated approximately $950,000 in accessible investments in addition to his retirement accounts. His neighbors assume Paul is wealthier. His calendar says otherwise. If both men lose their jobs tomorrow, Paul has months before panic begins. Marcus has years before concern even enters the conversation. That difference isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in choices. Paul can afford appearances. Marcus can afford options. That's the distinction almost nobody notices until they desperately need it. The man who spent less energy proving he had succeeded quietly purchased something much more valuable than status. He purchased time. And once you understand that, cutting away the golden anchor no longer feels like failure. It begins to look like survival. Remember Martin, the man whose retirement account fell from $600,000 to $290,000 after divorce. For several months, he did what most people do. He stared at the numbers, hoping they would somehow become less painful. They didn't. Eventually, he accepted something that changed every decision afterward. His income wasn't his problem anymore. His structure was. He sold the larger house. His monthly obligations fell from approximately $9,500 to $4,100. He eliminated high-fee investment products and moved into a diversified portfolio of low-cost Vanguard index funds. Instead of postponing taxes indefinitely, He began annual Roth conversions in manageable amounts while his taxable income temporarily sat in a lower bracket. None of those decisions recovered what had been lost. He won't retire at 62, probably not even at 65. But he also won't spend the next decade pretending arithmetic doesn't apply to him. That's what dignity looks like in personal finance. Not perfection. Correction. The golden anchor can be cut loose. The chain leaves scars. Cut it anyway. If you do nothing else after this video, do these 3 things. First, calculate your personal burn rate. Add every recurring monthly obligation that continues whether you feel wealthy or not. Mortgage, insurance, vehicle payments, utilities, memberships, debt payments, every fixed commitment. If those obligations exceed 60% of your monthly take-home income, you don't have a budgeting problem. You have a structural problem. Second, stop testing your retirement against average returns. Instead, assume your portfolio falls by 30% during your first or second year of retirement while you still need the same income. If that scenario permanently changes your retirement plan, you now understand your actual risk. Third, audit every investment fee, not just the advisory fee. Everything: fund expenses, management costs, platform charges. If your total annual investment costs exceed 0.3%, you're surrendering more of your future than necessary before markets have even had the chance to help you. None of these exercises require permission, only honesty. The golden anchor never looked dangerous because it was polished. Every payment reflected a promotion, a milestone, or a responsibility that once made perfect sense. But the ocean doesn't care why the anchor was dropped. It only cares that it's heavy. One man reaches 52 surrounded by symbols of success that quietly limit every future decision. Another reaches the same age with fewer things to display, but more years he actually controls. History rarely remembers which driveway held the nicer vehicle. It remembers who had the freedom to leave work on his own terms. Your 50s are not the decade where time becomes abundant. They're the decade where every financial decision either buys more of it or quietly gives it away. The tide is already rising. Whether you're still anchored when it arrives is no longer a question of income. It's a question of what you're willing to let go before time makes the decision for you.